Welcome back, everybody. I'm Rachel Stockman. I'll be your host for this afternoon, and we're going to take you to this fascinating case happening in Florida against Ashley MacArthur. She's facing murder charges for allegedly killing a private investigator, 33 years old. All right, welcome back, everybody. Really interesting redirect after cross-examination of this witness, the defendant's friend. We're in the case against Ashley MacArthur out of Florida. I want to bring in now my great panel of guests, Mike Corbett-Anix, criminal defense attorney, and Imran Ansari, another great criminal defense attorney as well here in New York City. Let's talk about this witness and the redirect. Imran, what was she trying to get at?
Well, so, I think she's trying to establish that, on defense's cross, they were trying to get out that this witness, the defendant's friend, didn't necessarily see any sort of evidence of any crime being committed on the property. I think on redirect, the prosecutor was trying to hit home to the jury that this property is a large property. This witness wasn't necessarily looking for anything suspicious, such as a dead body or any evidence of a crime. So it's perfectly plausible that this witness would have not seen any evidence of crime when she was at the property.
Right. It was a huge farm.
Right.
Clearly, if you're not looking for a buried body, and this woman, again, MacArthur, Mike, she's a former crime scene technician.
This case gets crazy.
Makes it crazy,
yes,
because she knows exactly what to do in order to conceal evidence if, in fact, she is guilty of this crime.
Well, I think what happens here is sometimes I think when you redirect and cross for the defense, you leave it there. I think in summation, they should hit that the most illogical thing for a defendant to do would bring somebody to a crime scene where they murdered somebody, where there's even a slightest chance they could see blood. And I think that's what he needs to hit in summation and leave it alone for now.
Okay, I got to interrupt this because the victim's husband is now on the stand. Let's listen in. All right, so this is the defendant's husband. He doesn't really know that much about what happened other than she seemed normal after the fact of the alleged murder and that they went to a wedding together. Mike Corbett-Anix, you have a theory as to why the prosecution called the husband here? And we'll get into the whole marital privilege thing in a second. I don't want to miscross, though.
I think they might have just called him here to show that she sort of avoided him at the wedding. Like, they didn't go to the wedding together. She split off at the wedding. He was with some friend
that
at a
she was acting
camp.
A little weird or something.
Yeah, but I don't know if it really adds a rhythm to this testimony. I don't know if it was such a great prosecution move.
It might be better for the defense. Let's listen what happens during cross-examination. Okay, the defendant's husband on the stand, cross-examination. So far, I'm not seeing this as a win for really the prosecution or the defense. Perhaps, Imran, the fact that she seemed pretty much normal the night of the murder helps the defense, right?
Well, this is a circumstantial case, right?
Yes.
So, I'm a former prosecutor also, and when I had to prove my case in court, there was a lot of times I would take a witness, and you wouldn't initially, if you were watching the trial, if you were a juror, you wouldn't, initially realize the importance of that witness. But when you have a circumstantial case and you're putting together pieces and you're getting ready for that summation, you know how your case is going to unfold. You know what evidence you want to put in, and at the end of the case, you're giving the jury a larger narrative of why you proved this case beyond a reasonable doubt. I think the prosecution probably has a reason. It's a circumstantial case, and they have to connect those dots. Maybe this is one dot.
Yeah, I don't know about that. We'll see. Let's continue to listen to the cross-examination. That concludes Zachary MacArthur's testimony. He is the husband to the defendant. Didn't really have any direct knowledge of what happened the day of the alleged murder, but talking about his wife's demeanor that night and the following day when they went to a wedding. And this was something specifically, and I want my guests to weigh in on this, that the defense picked up on, which was the fact that she had some kind of medical back issue. She couldn't pick up heavy things. And that was always apparent in their marriage. He'd always have to do the heavy lifting. Imran, does that matter? Because you're talking about a woman who's accused of disposing a body. She'd have to transport the body. If she couldn't pick up heavy things, how was she able to do that?
Right. I think the defense is definitely going to go that route with that line of questioning. They've sort of set themselves up for that argument as summations. But, there's other explanations why or how she could have moved that body. She could have used something. So they're talking about the Polaris. The prosecution was talking and getting those questions and answers out through the husband about that vehicle. There may be another explanation of how she dragged that body. The defense will obviously hit home on that, but it's not necessarily enough, in my opinion, for the defense to hang their hat on.
What did you think, Mike, overall of the husband's testimony? And let's talk about this marital privilege thing. I mean, as far as we know, they are still married. He does not have to, right, testify against her?
My understanding, there's always slight differences in the marital privilege in various states, but in Florida, either spouse, my understanding, could invoke it. So even if he wanted to testify, she could invoke it as the defendant, the privilege. I don't know how they got this far along to this part where he's testifying. There had to be some sort of pretrial motions, I would assume. But then again, he really didn't say much there. Nobody really, I didn't think either side used him very effectively.
Yeah, it's interesting as to why he was called as a prosecution witness to begin with. I don't think he necessarily, Imran, would you agree, added that much to the case?
So I would imagine at this point, again, I commented before,
yes,
there is a reason for that testimony. You'd like to think that the prosecution
sure
has thought out how they're going to prove their case. It is a circumstantial case. This could be just one piece of the puzzle that they're going to be, spelling out for the jury at the end of the trial.
This case is really fascinating for us trial watchers because we love circumstantial cases because it becomes a case of who done it. Let's talk about the evidence. There's a lot of circumstantial evidence. We know that the defendant and the victim were together that day. We know she lied. The defense attorney admitted she lied about what happened that day. But Mike, there's not a ton of direct evidence linking her to the crime. You do have this video surveillance, though, that's pretty damning.
Well, video surveillance is always difficult. But I always think as defense attorneys, we should never get intimidated by it because it's just a moment in time. A story has a beginning, a middle, and the end.
She was buying cement.
But they're also doing
The body was found encased in cement. How do you explain that away if you're the defense attorney, Imran?
I'm glad you asked him.
Yeah. Listen, it's a hard sell to the jury to sort of explain that away. I know they're going down this route of these renovations at the home, but the circumstantial evidence, the timing of it all, I mean, she's buying this cement on the date of the alleged murder. I don't think that the defense will have a compelling argument. This is a circumstantial case, but the circumstantial evidence in this case is pretty strong in my opinion.
Mike, you were going to...
The thing is, though, I mean, what we're hearing so far, there are other people at that farm at various times. And if other people knew she had cement, things of that nature, it's very difficult to think somebody who's a crime scene technician would be really not intelligent enough to just get rid of the body.
But she was only a crime scene technician for less than a year, too. We learned that.
Which is something they should have made a bigger point of, especially since her husband was a very experienced law enforcement officer. I think the defense might have missed a golden moment there.
Absolutely. Okay, it looks like we have another witness on the stand. I think my producer was just telling me who this is. This is the defendant's cousin. Let's take a listen. All right, this testimony is very interesting. He lived on the farm where the body was found. Mike Korbanik's criminal defense attorney. I found most interesting the defendant showing up 7 a.m. the next day of the alleged murder. What do you make of that?
It was very, I thought his answer was very bizarre. Like, it almost seemed like it was flirtatious. She said, I'm on the property. I said, no, you're not. And he sort of like smiled. And he said, because I would have heard her come up, but then she was there. And it just really doesn't make sense. And it just doesn't seem like a natural kind of relationship between a cousin. When he goes out, they go to a pool hall, and then they go to a strip club. Then they go to another place and they get trashed.
Really quickly, Imran, what do you make of this in 5 seconds?
All right, well, I think the prosecution is sort of having some difficulty with this witness. You can see her frustration on some questions. He's answering a little off. They probably prepped for this at one point.
Okay, Imran, I'm so sorry we have to go to a quick break, but this is a fascinating trial. We'll take you live in the Florida courtroom in just minutes. Stay with us.